Hey guys, welcome aboard for our first power rankings of the NHL 2023-24 season. It's going to be a crazy one because my God, has it been a hectic first 4 or 5 days to the season? So there's a bit to go through, but I'll kick off straight to Jayden to get us started.
Alrighty. Starting off all the way at the bottom, number 32, I have the Anaheim Ducks. So not
Yeah, no
much has
surprises there.
changed. Not much has changed from the last finals rankings from last season. That was the last week of that season. Um, I don't know what more you have to say for them. They're still in the rebuild. It's just going to be another slow process, and obviously very early in the season.
Yeah, I mean, they've played one game. Um, it was against the, reigning Stanley Cup champs, Vegas. They lose 4-1. It was pretty convincing. Um, yeah, I don't know. There's not much to say for them. I think we'd need to see a few more games. Like, I feel bad for having them at 32, especially. I'm just going to shout out, like, Edmonton Oilers 8-1 loss. I was very tempted to have them at 32 because, well, I mean, it's an 8-1 loss to start your season. It's not spectacular. But yeah, I do feel sorry to have the Ducks here. But given the small sample size, what we saw from them last season, we're not expecting to see too much more from them this
Mm.
season. I feel like this is just
Yeah,
as about as
and
good
just
as
to
it can
wrap
get.
up, like the way I've done my power rankings is kind of if you look at our previous video, like our season prediction where teams will finish, it's kind of going off based off that, and then how they've done, and then moving up or down based on that. If they overperformed, they go up higher. And it's so what that's how I've done my power rankings. So just you got that covered there. But with that classified, or not classified, but without further ado, I guess we can move back on to the power rankings at 31.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, 31, similar story, really. Small sample size and a not much to really go on. I've got the San Jose Sharks.
Yes, I've got exactly the same so far. So San Jose Sharks at 31.
Yeah, it's like, what are you going to say about them? Like, to be honest, it's we're not. It's similar to the Ducks. It's been a small sample size so far. They played what again, Vegas. So how's that for Vegas, right? Start the season against San Jose Sharks and Anaheim Ducks, probably two of the worst teams, of last season. But we haven't had too much. They play Colorado, take them to a shootout, which isn't too bad, and they play Vegas. So they play two pretty solid teams. But overall, you can't really judge them off two games, especially against two of the more solid teams in the league. So really, all you do have to go off of is where they finished the season last year, basically, and sort
Yeah,
of go from there.
a big shout out to
Especially,
Blackwood though, against the Avs. He honestly
mm,
deserved the 2 points just in himself, but San Jose kind of like the whole team just let him down in front. But that was a great performance. So even just looking at the highlights, if you haven't seen him yet, just go have a look because he did an amazing job. And so this could be a revitalizing for his career. But I thought I'd just shout that out because that was an impressive hold against one of the best teams, better teams in the league in Colorado. But obviously his team just let him down, couldn't get over the line, and lost in the shootout.
yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely phenomenal from Blackwood in that game. The big, unfortunate he doesn't get the 2 points. They sort of leaked that goal. It was a great screen. Pretty much every goalie in the league is going to get beaten by that screen and that shot from McCarr.
Yeah, well,
But
there was two people screening.
yeah, exactly. And with the team that he's got in front of him, that effort was phenomenal anyway. So you've got to give him that shout out. And unfortunately, couldn't get it done, obviously, in the shootout. But it's going to be a rocky season for him. But I think he's going to get plenty of opportunity with the Sharks to show what he's made of. He's going to be facing 40 shots a night. He's going to be getting absolutely peppered.
Yeah.
So he's going to be able to show if he's back to where he was looking like he was going to get at with the Devils. So yeah, good start for him. Reasonable start for San Jose getting a point off of a team like Colorado, but again, I can't really see them climbing too much higher than this for the rest of the season.
Yeah, look, understandable. Moving on to number 30. My number 30, I have the Washington Capitals from the Metro.
Yeah, that's where I've got them. I had to check quickly. Then I was like, whoa. I know I had them low, but yeah, same here. Terrible start, really.
Yeah, terrible start. Wow, I guess you and me have called it and predicted it for a while that it's probably going to be rough from here on out. They only had like 19 shots on goal against the Pens, and
Yeah,
no goals, obviously. And for a team that is wanting goals only for a particular player, I guess that's not a good thing either. I feel like this is kind of the region they'll be for the whole season. Maybe move up to the 25, 26, maybe, but honestly, this is kind of the region I expect them to stay for the rest of the season.
yeah, I wasn't really shocked when I saw them lose 4-0 to the Pens. I just a lot of people said that I was hearing whispers. I reckon it's probably mostly Capitals fans, but I was hearing a couple of whispers where they reckon that the Caps were a potential bounce back, especially with all the injuries they had last season. But and I get that a little bit. They did have a lot of injuries, but I just even without those injuries last year, I don't think they would have been too much better. So, and with that aging roster and everything else that's happened, I reckon mid-20s is pretty much the best we're gonna get from those guys this year. And I mean, hopefully, I guess you could say for Ovi's sake, he puts up 40 goals for him, gets even closer to that record. But yeah, I can't see anything other than the Ovi record being a positive for the Washington Capitals faithful.
Alrighty, your pick.
All right, let's go on to 29. And 29, I've got the Chicago Blackhawks, or should I call them the Connor Bedard Blackhawks? I feel
Yes,
like
I also have them at 29.
I feel like that's all that's really been spoken about for the last few weeks is Connor Bedard. Connor Bedard this, Connor Bedard that.
Yeah.
And look, he's a point per game player at the moment. He's got 3 points in 3 games. To be fair, 2 of them were secondary assists, which his basically bit didn't really play too much in the goal, but that goal he scored was pretty special. He's playing 20 odd minutes a night. He seems to be holding his own, and he likes to shoot at the net. So, I get the hype around him. He's looking reasonably good so far, especially in a Chicago team that's not overly special. But look, they got the win for Chicago fans on Connor Bedard's debut against the Pittsburgh Penguins on opening night. So that was pretty special. But then, yeah, look, the next 2 games they haven't been terrible. Just lost to Montreal.
Lost to Boston.
And lost to
Montreal.
Boston. Yeah, so look, they've been in games, and that's a pretty good sign. That's sort of what you'd be expecting or wanting as a Chicago fan is just to, be in every game you play, and obviously snatch a few wins along the way. But they competed against Boston, who, even though we're expecting a bit of a dip, they're still a relatively strong team. Competed against Montreal and obviously beat the Pens. So can't really complain about their start to the season, but I still think they're going to teeter around this low 20s,
Yeah.
early
Nah,
30s.
no, I think that's the same for everyone. Moving on to 28, I have the Philadelphia Flyers.
Philadelphia Flyers. I have them 1 spot above, actually,
All right.
at 27.
So finally changing it up. Yeah, it's another team that's just in a rebuild, going through the process. They just recently lost to Ottawa. They beat the Blue Jackets 4-2. So that's the talking point, I guess, for this team. But then they go and lose to Ottawa semi-convincingly. So it's yeah, I just this is where they're probably going to be all season. I don't expect anything special or any big hurrahs, and I don't think the team want that either. So it's just like the Ducks, really, and the Sharks just going through the process.
Yeah, and that was the positive for them is that they actually they came out and said that they were going to have a rebuild, which every Philadelphia fan I think around the world was shocked with, but also very very grateful for. So yeah, look, expect to see them floating around this mark for pretty much the entire year. I can't considering they're going for that rebuild, I don't think Philly fans would really want to see them much higher than this. I think mid to low 20s, or mid to high 20s. That yeah, like 25 to 30, and then all the way to 32. I think that's right where they want to be at. Um, and yeah, look, so far so good. They get a win against a team that we all think should be on the up this year. So that's a positive, but then they lose against a side that they probably should lose against in Ottawa as well. Um, yeah, look, I don't think you can expect much more from Philly, and I don't think you should because everyone knows they need a rebuild. So they need to be shit. You don't want them to be good. That's the big thing here is if we're talking about Philly at 18th or 19th on this list, then something's going wrong in Philly.
Oh, basically, yeah. Alrighty. Next pick.
All right, let's go. I've got my 28 is the Montreal Canadiens.
Righty, I have them there as well. There we are.
Don't mind my dog joining the video.
At 27, I have the Montreal Canadiens. Yeah, probably the weakest team in the Atlantic, and like they're still giving it to teams. You got to give them that by all means. They just beat obviously what we just mentioned, Chicago, and they took it to Toronto, which they seem to always do. So that just seems to be tradition. And it went to shootout, and shootout's a tie, so they don't get the extra point, but they took it to them. They get a point out of it. I think there were 3 points so far of the season. They've only played the 2 games from memory. So honestly, probably best outcome you could probably think of, really. 3 points from that schedule of Toronto and Chicago. That's pretty good. So pretty low for how successful it's been so far, but I don't think it's been anything outstanding besides the Toronto one. But like I said, they seem to always do that.
Yeah, it seems to be. I feel like the point was almost a letdown for Montreal fans because they seem to have Toronto's number over the last few years anyway, since they beat them in the Stanley Cup playoffs. But yeah, like what more can you say for them? Really, we're not expecting them to have a huge year. We definitely think they're going to be eighth in the Atlantic, especially with the rest of the firepower coming from that division. But to start the season off with a shootout loss against probably one of the top five teams in the comp, and obviously beating Chicago, which is a team that is down the rung, so they're getting the job done against the teams that they probably should. It's a good start for them, but again, it's that conversation of where is this team going to be, and if I'm a betting man, if I was a betting man, I'd be saying around this spot, and I don't think they'll drop into those final three spots. I don't think they'll drop into the 30s. I think they're a lot better than obviously the Ducks, the Sharks, and probably Caps, maybe Chicago. But yeah, I wouldn't expect them to get out of the 20s either. I think they'll be like Philly. I think what you're seeing here, this bottom six that we both got so far, is probably the bottom six you'll see most of the season.
Alrighty. Moving on to 26. I have a team that shouldn't really be here, like from how we expected to start, but Seattle Kraken.
Oh, well, I actually thought you were going with someone else there, but yeah, I really did, but I've actually got Seattle there as well.
Oh,
I thought you were actually going with the Buffalo call, but no, you've gone the same. So
yeah,
yeah, it's not good, is it? It's not a good start at all.
no. And
Two goals.
like I said at the start of the season, in the preseason stuff, that it comes down to them having to play their system and getting good goaltending. And
Hmm.
I guess really you don't even have to talk about that because, like you mentioned, they've only scored 2 goals, and that's
Hmm.
the root of the crux. Getting shut out by Nashville, sure, they have great goaltending there, and they've had a semi-hard run in Vegas, Nashville, St. Louis. So that's a hard run, but like, what are you doing? um,
Well, yeah, I mean,
I th- yeah,
if you're going off of last year, you can say Vegas. Yeah, Vegas is a hard run to start your season.
mm,
Nashville, I know you're really, really high on Nashville, and I actually think Nashville will be
yeah.
pretty good myself.
I think it's a
Um,
hard game, no matter who you are. Yeah,
yeah, but like the St. Louis one, I know we're all thinking, like, what is St. Louis going to do? Are they going to have a bounce back season, or are they going to just continue to get worse? So, look, it could have been a harder run. I'd say that, and it is sort of a toughish run, but I also expect this team to actually do more than they've done.
mm,
Considering what they did last year, I would be expecting them to at least have gotten 2 to 3 points out of these first 3 games rather than the one single point they're on.
yeah,
At least winning one of them, at least beating St. Louis or beating Nashville. But to have 1 point, it's not even the points either, the wins or losses. It's the fact that they've scored 2 goals.
mm,
They're not leaking goals crazily, by any means. They've conceded 8 goals in the first 3 games, but the fact that they've scored two is just, if
mm,
that offense doesn't start firing, then yeah, this team's going to struggle because even though it's got a good defensive structure, that goaltending situation's a worry. Um, so yeah, it's worrying signs early for Seattle, but I
I think
guess
it's
time will
worrying
tell if they can fix
signs
it.
for the Pacific. There's only 5 of the 8 teams haven't got a win, um,
I
which
was waiting
is
for you to bring that up.
pretty horrendous. Like, oh yeah, we've mentioned 3 already, and the 3 of them are down here. So it's
Hmm.
it's a bit rough. If you're a Pacific fan anyway, unless you're a team like supporter like Vegas, getting to support that and milk these teams. But that's the only line there.
All right, let's move on to 25. It's my pick, I think. Yeah,
Yeah, it's your
yeah,
pick.
that'd be mine. Yeah, it's on to mine. All right. Well, a team we just spoke about that they beat, that's beat Seattle today. It's the St. Louis Blues at 25.
Oh, I got them there as well. I just had to double check that one. But I also have the St. Louis Blues at 25.
Yeah, it's not a bad start for them by any means, is it? Like they take Dallas to shootout, and then they take Seattle to shootout and beat them. So their first 2 games they played two um, two teams that went relatively deep in the Stanley Cup playoffs last year. Like Dallas was Western Conference final. Kraken was beaten by Dallas in the second round, and they've taken 3 points from the two of them first 2 games. So yeah, good start from them. The defensive side of things is looking all right for St. Louis. Goal scoring, as you could tell, only scoring the 1 goal in both games. That's probably a cause for concern. But in terms of the start, I mean, you can't ask for too much better, especially against the teams that are playing. So potentially could have had him a bit higher, but I've still got my reservations around St. Louis.
Oh yeah. Um, I'm pretty much the same ball there. I think it's a great start for them. Definitely taking it to teams that we expected higher up on on the mark there, but it really is just that situation where they got to keep prove it through probably 10, 20 game span and not fall apart like they did last season. And that's really what I'm looking forward to seeing. But so far, so good. But I'm not moving up high on them yet.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if they keep this up and they keep these sort of performances up, taking points from quite solid teams, then I would think you'd see them move quickly up this board. Because who knows, we could be in for a St. Louis Blues bounce back year if these performances keep going. But if they were to keep going, I dare say you're gonna need to see a little bit more offense from them.
Yeah. Alrighty. Moving on to 24, I have the Buffalo Sabres. Team also that wasn't
Uh,
expected to be down here.
Yeah, no, by any means, I've got them there as well. Yeah, what a shocker! People were talking about having them in the top three in the Atlantic, minimum a wild card spot, and we're 2 games in. You can't go
Yeah.
too
Yeah.
crazy
Look.
about it, but
Yeah.
it's not a great
Granted,
start.
they're hard teams and both Metro teams.
Mm,
Rangers and Islanders, so they don't have to travel far. So jet lag
mm.
or anything like that's not an excuse. Obviously getting beat pretty comfortably by Rangers and then close game against the Islanders. But yeah, you would just be expecting on the hype that probably they get the win over the Islanders, and they just don't get it done. So
Mm.
a little bit of down of a start, which is a little bit opposite to what Buffalo do. They normally go for a run at the start, get all the hype up, but then they crash. So
They
maybe
fall off, yeah.
they're trying
Mm.
the role reversal and seeing if that system works better. So we'll see if they actually
Well, I
do turn
mean,
it on soon.
it worked for New Jersey last year, right? Lose the first 2 games, have your fans up in uproars and chanting "fire your coach," and I don't think Buffalo's done that yet. But and then have a mad turnaround and win, ridiculous amounts of games over your next 20. So who knows? I don't expect we'll continue to see Buffalo perform this poorly. Although they played relatively well today against the Islanders. But I dare say we'll start seeing them get some results and really start hitting the ground running soon. So yeah, don't expect them to stay down here too long.
Alrighty, your pick.
23, I have, well, I mean, considering where they finished, how their season finished last year and making the Stanley Cup finals, having Florida at 23 is an interesting one. But then you remember back to where they finished the season in the standings last year at 17th overall, and you kind of remember, oh, yeah, they're not too good at that regular season game, are they? Um, and it started off pretty similar again, getting shut out to Minnesota 2-0, and then losing 6-4 to Winnipeg. It's not sort of you know worrying signs. Yeah, as we said, it's
Yeah.
early days, but um,
Well,
yeah, I
granted
mean,
they
where
had
else
like
you put
double
them?
the shots of Minnesota, but they still managed to lose. And then they come against Winnipeg, pretty close game, 6-4. So honestly, could have gone either way. Um, but for a team that did the run they did, and probably the expectations on them from a lot of people, that this is a big underperformance. But I think it's like the Buffalo situation that I don't expect them to be here too long.
Well, I also kind of don't think it's an underperformance considering they're without Ekblad and Montour, who are probably two of their best defenders for the first I think 2 or 3 months of the season. So they're two big losses for Florida, and yeah, it's one of the reasons why I have them slipping out of the playoff. I'm pretty sure I had them slipping out of the playoffs in our predictions. I do think they'll continue to struggle in this opening part of the season. They might get a little bit better as the season goes on, but I think it's just going to be too much for them, missing 2 key players.
Alrighty. Yeah, good points. On to number 22. I have the Minnesota Wild.
This is one where we differ quite substantially, but to be fair, I cheated on having them at this low, and I cheated on having them where I had them. I cheated on having them at 20th, but
And then
I
you
settled on
finally decided
17th.
to have a mistake. Nah,
Yeah. Oh, look. Do you know what? It's yeah. I won't even say it's not because yeah, this middle section was tough. I was pretty I was pretty confident with my lower end and my upper end, but this middle end was real tough because there was some teams there where I was just like, I don't I don't really know if you deserve to be here,
mhm.
and these guys were one of them.
Yeah. Well, like we just mentioned with the Florida one, they beat Florida 2-0. Then they just lost in a 7-4 game. It was kind of a 7-3, but a late goal. So to make it 7-4. But so they get double double the amount of shots taken in the Florida game, and then they lose, concede 7 goals against Toronto. So I'm not overly sold on Wild as of yet. I feel like they got some issues that they got to work on, and this is where they started off last season. In our power rankings from memory. So, and they flirted with here
Mhm.
probably for the first 4 or 5 weeks, and then they finally made their move. I think they will make their move a little bit faster this year, but I've got them doing the same thing as they did last year at the moment.
Yeah, I mean that was the case, wasn't it? I think for the first like 6 7 weeks we were talking about when was Minnesota going to finally click and get their season rolling. They finally did, obviously, but again, this was one of the teams that I had big questions on. Could they slip out of the playoffs? I don't think they will, but given how sort of weaker the Central is looking this season, but yeah, it's going to be interesting, and it's why I teetered around with it. I was like, good shutout win, but they did concede 40 odd shots, which was worrying. And then after a shutout, conceding 7, so it was a real tough one with these guys, and I don't really know what to make of them
Yeah.
just yet.
Well, there's a big difference in ours, so that you can see there's room for differences here in the middle. But I guess we'll see
Mm-hmm.
who your 22 is now.
All right, so my 22 is a team that I have as roughies to just have one of the greatest turnaround seasons you'll see, and it's the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Hmm.
They
Alrighty.
kind of let me down in the first one,
I
the
have
first
them
game.
at 20.
Ooh,
So
nice.
big move from last year where we had them finishing the season. I guess that's pretty standard when you get like players like Warinsky back and just more development
Yeah,
under young kids. It's just
they were never a they were never a 32 or a 31 or a 30. They just the loss of Warinsky, a couple other issues they had, and their whole season just capitulated. And it was probably the best time to capitulate, because they got themselves this probably second best player in the draft. So
mm,
yeah,
yeah. Well,
interesting one.
they started the season poorly, losing 4-2 to Philly. It's a team that they should be beating, into division rival, and then go to another division rival and beat that one, and probably the better team in the Rangers 5-3. So
Probably, I think
I'm saying
definitely.
probably because just how early it is in the season, but
Yeah.
um yeah, it is a mixed results. You'd probably expect those results to be reversed, but they probably
Mhm.
come out with um the amount of points that you'd expect from that type of schedule anyway. And look, I think they're going to do good things. Like I said, you're high on them. I'm high on them. It's going to be really hard to get into the playoffs, because how competitive it is in the Metro at the top four.
And the East in general. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the only reason why I didn't have them making the playoffs in my predictions.
Wow.
I think if they were in maybe the West, it might have been a different story. But I don't know. I just think with a full strength side, Fantilli coming into the lineup, a couple other players coming through, Gaudreau in his second season. I just feel like they've got that. They've got some real they've just got some real firepower coming through and getting back into that lineup. So there's no reason they should be sitting anywhere near that bottom three like they were all of last season. I think this point and up is what you'd expect. I think probably 18 to 23 is probably where they'll float, with the potential of pushing into that top 16 if they can really get themselves going.
Alrighty, moving on to my 21. This will be an interesting one. It is the Edmonton Oilers.
Oh, see, I know I knew we were talking about it, and I was saying to you that I was going to put him at 32 for so long, and then you were saying, "Oh, I've got him in my top 16. I don't know if they should be or not,"
No,
and
I
we
wasn't
both
finished
settled
yet,
on
but
the
yeah.
same. I know, but like when we were just talking about, just the occasional ones that we were stuck on, I was like, yeah, Oilers at 32. That just, I want to put them there, but I can't. And you're like, top 16. That's probably where they'll finish, but also that's not how they look. And
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, funny
yeah,
that we finished both on 21. That's pretty crazy.
yeah. Look, and probably
Uh,
the smallest of sample sizes in regards to that they've only versed the
oh,
same team twice. So it could just be one of those things where that team just has a better system compared to that team's system, and it's not really reflective on that team. Granted, with that said, they do look ordinary at the moment, to say the least. And you're losing 8-1 to a team where they finished last season, and what the expectations on the Oilers are this season. Um, it's honestly probably not acceptable,
no,
to
I
say the
don't think it
least.
is.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't think it is, man, to be honest, because, you talk about systems. Vancouver was one of the easiest teams to score against last year, outside of probably Anaheim.
mm,
They defensively, they were woeful last season. And don't get me wrong, they've got some players on defense, and they've obviously improved that a little bit. Um, but against an Edmonton team that has the firepower it has, to only concede 4 goals in the 2 games they played against them, but put up 12 is just impressive. If you told me that Edmonton lost 8-6 to Vancouver, I'd probably be like, yeah, that makes sense. Edmonton's defense is terrible. Their goaltending is questionable, but so is Vancouver's. And it just obviously was a shootout that Vancouver got the better of them,
yeah,
but that 8-1 was just deplorable.
yeah,
But you're allowed to have an off game. They looked better in the second, even though the defense still looked shaky
yeah.
as shaky as
Well, they only
anything.
conceded 16 shots, but 4 of them went in. That's the
Mhm.
problem. So that's shaky
Yeah.
defense, and then just leaving either your goaltender to dry or shaky goaltending as well. And
Hmm.
so, and they had 40 shots on goal. So offense was not a problem. It's the same talking point with this team. It's always defense and or
Yeah.
goaltending. So um, I
Yeah.
don't expect them to finish here, but it's a rough start. And I guess
It is not. I
talking
think
points
they
of
need. Yeah, I think they need. So Ekholm was back today because he missed the first game, and that was one of the big talking points. No Ekholm, no Oilers defense. But to be honest, he was back today, and it didn't. I mean, it was 4 goals better, but it didn't look much better. So hopefully Ekholm and whatever defensive coaches they've got can get that under wraps, because it could be what really hurts them in the long run. But we did see them have a shaky start last year, and they still managed to come home absolutely firing. So still 80 games to go.
Alrighty. Your pick at 20.
At 20, this is where I absolutely hate this area, because I have a bunch of teams here, and I'm like, they could be anywhere 5 or 6 spots up or down. Um, Another Pacific team with a really slow start, probably not where they're expected to finish, but I did have my reservations about these guys. I think I had them fifth in the Pacific in our prediction video. I got the Los Angeles Kings.
Oh, okay. LA Kings, I have at 19 here.
Yeah, yeah, had to
Let me
be one
just
up.
fill in. Um, yeah, I'm not too sure why I split them with the Blue Jackets. I just felt like Blue Jackets were better than Oilers, but I don't know why I felt like LA was above them. Seeming neither team have won. um,
No, no.
so it's just a little thing there, but I felt like I just separated them. Yeah, that's the thing. Rough schedule. Playing good offense. Shaky sometimes in getting in the zone, but it's just that goaltending with Copley and whatnot. It's not looking like the tandem that you want to go forward with so far. It's very early on, but it is quite shaky and could be the undoing for a good potential season. So that's my concern with the LA and out of the playoffs at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, what did Carolina today have 19 shots or something, and they conceded 5 goals. They were lucky to take it to the shootout.
Mm.
Um, it's the reason why I had them finishing fifth in my prediction in our prediction video. It's the big question mark I've got around the Kings. It was a big question mark I had last year around the Kings was their goaltending and their defense at times. And it's still something that I'm concerned about. And I think with some of the teams in the Pacific that are improving, like you look at Vancouver's starts of the season already. Um, I mean, Seattle started off slowly, but you've got to start to worry if you're a Kings fan or if you're the Kings, because if they don't fix this goaltending situation, which I don't know how they're going to fix that goaltending situation, because there's not too much out there to fix it with, it could really cost them a playoff spot because it's not as weak as what it was last year. You've got the bounce back of Calgary, which should happen. You've got Vancouver looking to do something, and I mean, yeah, it could be a year where the Kings find themselves in a bit of strife if they don't get it sorted out.
Mm. No, I agree. Yeah, rough start, but their start last season was a little bit like 50-50, and then they kept bringing it together and outperforming. So hopefully they can do that. But
Mm.
I guess it's your pick now. Oh, is it my pick? No, it's my
Sure,
pick.
sure pick, dude. Yep, your pick.
18 for me. I have it is the Calgary Flames.
Calgary Flames 18. Yeah, I've got them at 18 as well.
So
Um,
okay, yeah, I had them at 21, around 21, below Columbus. But I just made a little bit of change. I'm still not overly convinced with how they're playing. Just it's one of those things like they get results, they don't get results, but I'm just not fully sold on them yet. It's kind of where they sat last year all year, and
yeah,
I do expect them to do better, but that it is a big little red flag for me. That's how they're starting as well. So I guess I'll let you take it from there.
yeah, yeah, pretty much the same as you. I'm a little bit concerned. They conceded 5 goals against Pittsburgh today. We're asking the question of, I think what we spoke about with Calgary's resurgence was, can Markstrom get back to where he was? Um, and that's the real big concern, I think, for them is, does Markstrom have that ability to get back to where he was? But again, it's so these power rankings so early are so difficult because you're going off of a small sample size. Some players take a little bit while to sort of get their groove going. Some players just have a few shaky games before they hit the ground running. It happens. So what we're seeing right now is they've got 2 points in 2 games. They beat their a team that they're going to be competing for potentially for a wild card spot in Winnipeg. So they get some good points there. But overall, for now, they pretty much finished where they left off last year.
Yeah,
Um,
I just wasn't convinced with that Winnipeg win. Like obviously 22 shots to 37. That was
mhm.
my concern. That's why I have them so low. If it was more convincing, I could understand the Pittsburgh game, but that's why they're just outside the top 16 for me. Is I wasn't fully sold on the win against Winnipeg. I thought it was a little bit
Mhm.
fortunate.
Yeah.
with
No.
decent goaltending as well, which has been
Yeah.
their issue, as we mentioned.
Mm. All right, moving on to my 19. I have the much improved, uh, and they probably could have been higher given how well they played. But only one game, it's hard to really move too much on them. It's the Arizona Coyotes.
Hmm. Okay. This starts my top 16 at 15. I have the Arizona Coyotes. Yep, they're making the playoffs. One game in,
look,
they're making the playoffs.
look, look, man, look. I know, New Jersey looked they looked slow against Detroit and against Arizona, especially out the gates. They started both games off pretty slowly, but Arizona looked quick. Like last season, they didn't really look fast. Their play didn't look quick, but they looked a lot quicker. They looked a lot cleaner. They looked a lot sharper on defense.
Cooley looks like the
Uh,
real deal. That's a good thing in this
Cooley
stage of
looks
the game.
good. Their young kids look good. Keller just keeps doing Keller things. So yeah, look, man. Was it Valimaki, their goaltender? Um, he looks solid as well. So they deserved the points against the Devils. There was questionable calls that I think led to them taking it to overtime. But overall, I feel like they deserve points no
Yeah.
matter what happened in that game. Whether that call happened or not, the way they played, they deserve points in that game.
I've already
That call.
commented somewhere that like every year the officiating seems to get worse. Um,
Mm,
and it seems to be a trend now, and it's getting more and more prevalent. And
it is.
I don't think it's gonna stop. And I think more games will be decided by it. And
Yeah,
but
and that's a
yeah,
disappointing thing. But at
it,
the end of the day, like I said, they deserved
yeah,
points in that game.
yeah,
Whether or
exactly.
not refereeing, led to them actually getting the points, but the way they played and the way they handled that game, they deserve points. They look a lot faster. Their structures look to be relatively solid. They're still putting in that effort, which drove them last season. And I even said, like, I could see these guys having an 80 plus point season. They look much improved, and with that effort that they were putting out last season, yeah, be worried if you're coming up against the Coyotes. I think they'll still have their games that they get blown out because they're young, but I think they're definitely going to be a team to watch.
Alrighty. Just outside my top 16, I have the Tampa Bay Lightning. Team I'm not fully sold on, and I think like
With
they
great regret, I have them just inside the top 16.
so yeah, make or break. But no, it's just I just think they're conceding too many goals. I think 2 games they conceded 9 goals. Sure, they beat Nashville, which I think is a very competitive team. But and then they lose to Detroit, but it's a different type of Detroit.
Yeah.
6-4. But I think they're just conceding too many goals, and because of their goaltending situation, and I think they're really just relying on that firepower forward to get through this period. And once they come through a fully steadfast defense or indoor goaltender, I think they will just fall apart. And
Mhm.
that's my concern with this team. So that's why I've got them at 17 at the moment.
Yeah. Like I said, this section was so tough, and Tampa was a team that I was going. Well, I don't think they're in the top 16, but I kind of have to have them in the top 16 because it's hard to have any other team outside of it in the top 16. And it was just a nightmare doing this. But yeah, there's big questions around him, and I think the Vasilevsky injury is definitely going to hurt them a bit, especially until he comes back. Um, I mean, once he gets back, it's going to be a question on how good is he when he gets back, to whether or not they can get their season back on track. But yeah, I think this was a team we both had missing the playoffs this year in our predictions. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you see these guys slip a little bit, especially in the next coming weeks.
Yeah, I agree. Alrighty. On to my next pick.
My,
Oh, is it my pick?
it's my pick. My pick.
No, let
Yeah.
it be my pick. I like this team.
No, no, it's my pick. Screw you. Well, I don't think it's going to be the team that you've got. So you'll be fine. You'll get to announce them. Uh, 15, I have the New York Islanders again, pretty regretfully because they've only played the one game.
I have to look where I've got them, actually. I have them at 14, just above
Mm.
Arizona.
Yeah, it's tough because I don't actually have these guys making the playoffs. I don't even think they're going to come close to making the playoffs this season. But they're 1-0. They won their one and only game. Um, they played reasonably well. It's kind of hard to do anything else with them. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's really all I
It's
can
sort of
say on
sample
it.
size, tight game against a team we expect to be better than where they are in Buffalo, being at
Mm-hmm.
24 at the moment for each of us. Uh, so yeah, it's very small sample size. Like Arizona, we're gonna have to see more games. But so far, good start to the season. Didn't go to OT or a shootout, so just got it done in regulation, which was good.
Yeah, I mean that's really what you can say about them, right?
Mm,
Is good start in the one game they've played. Uh, hey, they might prove us wrong.
yep.
I think they're cooked. I think you know, they're getting too old. They're not quick enough. They don't have firing firepower anymore. The defensive structure, especially as it gets older, is just I don't think it's gonna hold up as much. Although Sorokin is strong enough, but yeah, just with the firepower in the East, I just don't think they're going to be there. But
Mm.
for now, they're undefeated.
Alrighty. On to 16 for me. I have the Nashville Predators.
Yeah, I thought
Uh,
that's who you were going for.
yeah. So in my top 16, just by a slither, even though they don't have really the record to show for it, going 1-2. Obviously losing to Tampa, shutting out Seattle, and then losing just by a goal against Boston. Pretty hard run, all things considered,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you consider where those teams finished last season. So my biggest concern with this team was goal scoring. They're averaging basically 3 goals a game, which is really good. So even though they don't have the record going 1-2, they're in every game, they're playing every game, they're scoring. They've even got a shutout. So honestly, I think they can. They are around this mark. It's just getting maybe a better schedule, easier teams. It doesn't get really easier for the next two with Edmonton and the Rangers. Though
Mm.
granted, Edmonton are where they are at the moment, so we'll have to see how easy that one is. But
Mm.
yes, I really like the Ryan
Yeah,
O'Reilly, and I think it's they are outperforming a lot of people's expectations.
yeah. I mean, I know you were really high on them. You had them third in the Central. Sorry, um, which was a big call, but
Yeah,
I agreed with you to somewhat. Like I had them fourth, I think, in the Central because yeah, I don't know. I just feel like that coaching structure is going to make a world of difference for this team. And look, they're playing some good hockey to start the season. And yeah, as you said, it's tough when you get a run where it's Tampa Bay, one of the better teams in the previous few years. Seattle, who obviously made the second round of the playoffs, even though they haven't had a great start, and then Boston, who was arguably the best team in a home and away season in forever. Um, and then you go and play Edmonton and New York Rangers, two other playoff teams. So five playoff teams in your first 5 games is pretty rough, especially when the reigning Stanley Cup champs come up against the two worst teams in the
yep.
league from last season in their first 3 games. So yeah, you can sort of throw up the question there of the fixture, how
Mm.
fair is it to start the season? But
Also,
look, they've
no
done well.
division games as well. At least for the first 6 games, no inter-division
Mm,
games, which is different to a lot of the other teams we've been talking about. But
yeah, and I get someone's got to do it. I get it, and that's probably just it. It just happens to be their turn. It's just a bit unfortunate for Nashville, but Yeah, look, I have them at 14. Do I think that they're going to finish at 14? Probably not. Does their record justify being at 14? Probably not. But I just think they're playing a lot better than what people expect, and I feel like they kind of deserve to be there. I feel like that they can really get it together. They've played good hockey. The results just haven't gone their way against some better
Mm.
teams.
All right, 13. Your pick.
All right, coming in at 13, the Winnipeg Jets.
Okay, that's where I got them as well.
Yeah, interesting one.
Yeah,
Is it
overperforming from what I thought they would do at the start of the season, but obviously they got the two big signings
100%?
done, which does help. They probably should have got the W against Calgary, so that 2 points went away. But they do get the W against Florida, so not a bad start. Not the greatest start, but not the worst start. Um,
Mm.
it's not too bad.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. Right, like I don't really know that they'll stay here. I think they're similar to Nashville. I just feel like I didn't really want to put any of those other teams ahead of them, um, just because I feel like the expectations on a couple of those others are probably higher than these two teams, but they're not performing where these two teams had sort of better records than they did, in a sense.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a tough one, but yeah, I mean, what else can you say? Could Winnipeg Jets have a bounce back, or not a bounce back season, but I guess a bounce back to where everyone thought they were heading? I know a few Jets fans that thought they were done and dusted.
Mm.
You pack up your bags. We're going full rebuild. We're not going to be anywhere near the mark. Whereas then all of a sudden the tone's changed a little bit, where there's a little bit of belief there from Jets fans. So
Mm.
um,
No,
yeah, we'll see
that's
what
what you
happens.
want every season. Moving on to
Hmm.
number 12, I have the Ottawa Senators.
Yes, one of my
My big call that they finished
faves at the
second.
moment.
Uh,
Yeah.
so interesting start. They take it to Carolina, then they defeat Philly. So a really good start, all things considered. That's why I've been high on them, and they seem to be performing so far. Granted, it's flip flop schedule with Carolina being at one end and Philly being at the other, but um, I'm just impressed. I thought I would be. I think everything's just seems to be clicking so far. Obviously, still things to work on here and there, but honestly, this is probably higher than where I predicted them to be start off the season. So that's a plus.
Yeah, look, I think Ottawa are probably my favorite out of the three, although clearly Detroit are ahead of them at the moment, um, and rightfully so. But Ottawa were my favorite out of the three: Buffalo, Detroit, and Ottawa. That everyone sort of going, we should be seeing potential playoffs out of a couple of these teams. Um, and I still have them as favourites, even though Detroit have hit the ground running, and we'll get to them. I still think Ottawa, once they get their groove, they'll be good this season.
Alrighty, your pick.
All right, on to my 11. I have the New York Rangers.
Oh, okay. I have them in my top 10 at number 8.
Mm, yeah, I'm not surprised with that at all. I cheated on getting them back in the top 10. But I don't know. I don't know. That Columbus loss, I know we're expecting Columbus to be better, but it was a question mark, even though they dealt with Buffalo pretty well.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
I just had to
I
start them
agree.
here.
I had the same and ahs about them, but I still think they are just one of the stronger teams. With the way they play, the firepower, the goaltending. Adam Fox looks like he's playing really good as well. So it's hard to go against them at the moment for me.
Mm. Oh, definitely still a playoff team. I still think they'll finish third in the Metro. Um, so yeah, no questions about any of that. I've just I think we'll see them rise up the ranks in the coming weeks.
Alrighty, on to my number 11, just outside the top 10. I have the Detroit Red Wings.
yeah, they're just one ahead for me in the top 10. I kind of just, I think that's where I had the Rangers at 10th, number 10, but I kind of wanted to put the Detroit Red Wings in the top 10 just on how well they played in their first two games.
Yep.
I know they lost to Jersey, but they definitely deserved points in that game.
Yeah.
It was so close to overtime, and then obviously Jersey scored, and Jersey scored again to make it 4-2. But even then, they scored the empty net to make it 4-2, of course. But even when it went to 4-2, it was like, oh, heads are going to drop and all the rest of it. Nah, Detroit straight back at it and worked their ass off, scored another goal, and actually made it
Mm.
intense last 40 seconds. Like, it wasn't we're down two, they scored an empty net, game's done and dusted, like you see some teams do. Nah, they went to work and they played that game super well. They probably hurt themselves just by going to the box too often. But again, it was one of those games where there were some seriously questionable calls both ways, and
Mm. And
sometimes it's hard to stay out of the box
yeah,
when
and
that
great
happens.
start from DeBrincat. 3 goals, 2 games. He's got 4 points.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing start. Paired up with Larkin. Larkin looking absolutely amazing as well. Against Tampa, doing an absolutely unselfish pass to DeBrincat, who then
Mm-hmm.
scores the goal. As he was in on, and he still passed it. So
Yeah,
honestly, great chemistry. Things seem to be clicking. We were pretty hyped with them through the preseason. We still had them at 7th for both of us in the final where they end up, just because how freaking crazy the Atlantic is. But
yeah, that was like a
that
mid
that that was
mid to high
that was
80s
82 games, and you missed by a point or two from playoffs, and you finished
and finished
P7.
seventh.
So
Yeah.
no, we've been very high on them, and they're starting very, very strong. Getting a little bit easier in some degrees. Maybe not. Coming against Columbus, then going to Pittsburgh, and then Ottawa. So, still staying in the same region. Not too much travel there, so that bodes well for them. And honestly, I can see them ending this 5-game streak with like 4 wins. So,
Mm,
a very strong team.
they look good.
Very, very, very looking good, and I'm really liking
Mm.
the signs of DeBrincat at the moment, which is good.
Yeah, I mean, he's hit the ground running
Mm,
with Detroit, which is incredible. Exactly what Detroit fans would be hoping for. Kim Costin, he was an underrated sort of trade. I pointed out from Detroit, and he's performed quite well in the opening games as well. So. Yeah, I just think overall everything they did in the off season has started well for them, and they look better. I heard I think a few Detroit fans actually commented on our video saying they lack speed, they need speed. Well, they looked quick
mm.
in these first two games. They've looked quick, so
Sometimes
maybe
speed
that's
just
something
comes
that
down
they
to
went
system. That's
chemistry.
it. Mm.
Yeah, system and chemistry and how you work. So, yeah, look, it's looking good so far for Detroit. Whether they can keep it up is another question, but so far so good.
Alrighty. Moving on. To your
To
pick.
my number 9. Yeah, my number 9. Yeah, they started off the season a bit higher than this for us last year, and quickly um, plummeted back down to planet Earth, and fluctuated up and down for the rest of the season. So let's see if that happens again for them. But they've started off pretty good so far. The Pittsburgh Penguins.
Okay, I actually have to look up where I got these bad boys. They are my number 9, Pittsburgh
Yeah,
Penguins.
awesome. Yeah, I mean, rough start. Chicago lose 4-2. Hand Connor Bedard his first win, NHL win. Interesting, but they've looked good since. So their next two games, obviously blanking Washington 4-0, and then beating Calgary 5-2 today. So they look to bounce straight back from that, because when I saw that, I was like, oh, maybe this potential bounce back season for Pittsburgh isn't on the cards. But they look pretty solid. They look like they're playing some pretty fine hockey.
Yeah, No, we both expected them to be playing towards the playoffs, and they seem to be doing that at the moment. Malkin's looking really good, doing a lot of one-timers, and his one-timers looking really strong. So honestly, as long as that team stays healthy, I think the sky's the ceiling for them. So honestly, they just got to keep doing it. They got Detroit coming up, St. Louis and Dallas. So probably 2 out of 3 being hard games there, and I'd like to see probably take 4 out of 6 points maybe from that little stretch there, just to keep them probably in the top 10 maybe. But yeah, I don't know what else to say for this. So far, it's just clicking. Although it was a slow start against Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, it's just going to be time will tell. Will they do what they did last season, and fluctuate up and down, have their good times and their bad times, have their good winning streaks and then bad losing streaks? Yeah, but so far, started off a bit rusty against Chicago, the team that ultimately cost them the playoff spot last year, but got straight back to it in their next 2 wins. So, yeah, good
Alrighty.
start so far.
Number 10 for me, I have the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah, these guys are at 8 for me. I mean, Jesus, with that first performance, you could almost argue they're in the top 3, but it feels weird having them this high, to be honest.
Yeah, I
I
think
don't
it's the
know when
first
the
time
last
ever to be in
time,
the top 10, and
mm,
it is like
potentially
that
top
small
16.
sample size. They've only faced the same team twice, being Edmonton, destroying them, and then kind of getting destroyed in the second game, but they still come out with a win. And so, great start to the season. A lot of their players are looking really strong. And, I think was a Beza, 4 goals in the first game. So
Yep.
it's yeah, it's clicking at the moment. There seems to be a streaky team. Considering last season, down in the dumps and they recovered. So far, it's staying strong now, so hopefully they can keep it going for as long as possible, and we don't see any decline.
Yeah. Well, look, I guess it's the question of like, if this team could make playoffs, you'd probably take it. But there were a lot of Vancouver fans a bit annoyed when they traded their first round pick for Hronik. Especially because they were like, I thought we were heading forward towards a proper rebuild. But obviously, you've got that awkwardness of, well, you got Pedersen, Quinn Hughes. You probably can't have a rebuild with those sorts of players. So, look, hopefully for Vancouver fans that this is them turning the corner. Maybe they've got some pretty talented players, so all you need them to do is click. And so far, so good. Especially against one of the highest firepower teams in the comp. Being able to only concede 4 goals in the 2 games and also score 12 goals against them is, it's a great start. So
Hmm.
yeah, I'll be watching them closely. That's for sure. See if they can keep it up.
Alrighty, your pick.
All right, at number 7, a team I was kind of expecting to have a little bit higher. Um, to be honest, they've worried me a little bit in their first 2 games, even though they've got 3 points. But they look a bit shaky, a little bit slow early on. It's the New Jersey Devils.
Alrighty, I got them at number 5, but completely agree. But I think the
Mm.
expectations were very high on them. That a lot.
Oh, 100%.
Mm,
You you go into last season and they were probably projected to be. I had them projected for a potential wild card spot. Would have been happy if they were fighting for a wild card spot. So for what they did last year, it was well above. Whereas in this season, it's a bit different. Everyone's like, they're cup favourites or one of the cup favourites. Um, but yeah, it just looked a little bit slow out of the gates, to be honest. Goaltending looked okay. I think Vanacek and Schmid had relatively good games, but their defense looked questionable at times, especially I think Luke Hughes making a couple of real rookie mistakes. Kid will learn. Kid's an absolute stud. And my other probably worry was, other than Jack Hughes's line, um, they seem to lack a little bit of potency. So I don't know if that's just a little bit of chemistry that they've got to gain, given there's a couple of couple of new lines for them with some of the changes that have happened. But yeah, look, they still look quick. They still look like stupidly talented, stupidly dangerous. I just think it might take a few games for them to sort of really warm up and get going. It was
Yeah,
a back to back as well,
yeah.
so and they got 3 points from the back to back. And as I said before, if it probably wasn't for a strange referee decision, they probably win that game against Arizona as well. In saying that, they also could have deserved to lose both games in regulation the way they played. So you take what you take. They're 3 points out of a possible 4 in a back to back. If you're a Devils fan, you're taking that any day of the week, I feel. Um, and I also feel like they're just they're just slowing. They're just starting a little bit slow. They started much worse last year. They were
Yep.
0-2 in the first 2 games, and everyone was,
Alrighty.
you know,
Uh, moving on to number 7 then. I've got the Dallas Stars.
Dallas Stars. I've actually got them at 4. They're in my top 5, just because no real sample size, basically, and I had them in my top 5 to start the season, so it was hard to really move them.
Okay, interesting, interesting. I'm not too sure what to think of that. Obviously, they've only played one game, but
Mm,
I know they're a decent team. That's why they're as high. But honestly, just a shootout win against St. Louis, and it is St. Louis expected to be lower.
mm,
So you're going to shootout being a tie. Look, they're a good team. Obviously, they got Ottinger and all that, so they got a good squad. I obviously just sample size. You could put this team honestly with the Islanders and Coyotes, with teams that have only played one game and one game.
mm.
So yeah, they could be all the way down at 14 or in your top 10.
Yeah, and that was the difficult thing I had was, they played one game, but I went, well, where did I see them at the start of the season? I was like, well, they're probably top 5. I've got them winning the Central, probably worst case second in the Central. I've got them finishing quite high in the NHL standings. So, it was one of those things. I'm like, they won their first game. Was it ugly? Yes. But ultimately, defensively, it was good. They get the 2 points, which is all that matters at the end of the day. So I kind of sort of just kept them around that mark. But yeah, just going to need a bigger sample size. They could rise 2 spots, could drop 5 spots next week, depending on how their games go.
Alrighty, your pick.
My pick at number 6, I believe, I have the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Alrighty, we differ greatly here. I have them at number 2.
Number 2. Yeah, I get it. I get what people are, Austin Matthews obviously scoring 6 goals. But again, it's that defense that worries me.
Mhm. Mhm.
They took Montreal Montreal took them to a shootout. So it's probably a team that you shouldn't be conceding 5 goals to. And then they concede 4 goals against Minnesota. So, and we question Minnesota's firepower. So to concede 4 goals against Minnesota is a real sort of worry. So although they scored 12 goals, they've also conceded 9. And that's just where my worry is. Obviously, good. They've started the season 2-0. But yeah, for me, I'm just a little bit worried about that defense and goaltending situation.
No, I'm exactly the same. It's always been that way for Toronto as well, but it just
Mm.
seems their top end seems to be firing uh, as hard as possible at this current moment.
Is it?
You're going to need some support from other people throughout, though. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
you can't just rely on the top end for that long. And look, I know Montreal always do that. Toronto seems to struggle against teams they shouldn't struggle against. They did it last year. So, how much do you take that into account? But I had them high, probably top 4 before the season, undefeated. So I couldn't really move them down. And I just think, yeah,
Hmm.
4 or above is where I believe. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I've not much more to say. obviously another team needs sample
Yeah.
size. They got Chicago, Florida, and Tampa coming up.
Yeah, so yeah, you should expect to see them staying probably around this mark after that, to be honest. But yeah, look, Austin Matthews trying to prove to everyone that he's worth that contract that he signed. And I mean, 2 hat tricks in 2 games is pretty darn impressive. Someone said the other day he's on pace for what, 246 goals or something. So yeah, let's see if he can
Well,
make it
well,
3
that's
and 3.
great and
Hey,
all, but if you only have impact in 2 games, then go missing for 4, and then but he's still a
oh,
goal per game type player. It's
100.
like, well, hang on, he's only had impact on 2 games. So
Yeah.
I hope he still continues this run. And honestly, I would love to see an 82 plus game goals per game
Oh,
season. That'd be
oh,
great.
imagine if he averaged a goal a game throughout the year. It'd be absolutely incredible. And I think, look, if he did that, then you could probably sit back and go, all right, fine. That $13.25 million contract, cool. Um, but I do feel like he has to perform this year. I feel like he's got to be around that 50, 60 goal mark. Otherwise, there's going to be some real questions. But, you know, 2 hat tricks to start the season. He's obviously taken some offense to some of the criticism around the contract.
Alrighty. Number 6 for me, I have the Boston Bruins.
Yeah, see, this is we change up a little bit here because I've actually got them at 3. Um,
Yeah, so
yeah.
looking like the top 6 or so is all muddled up, and that
Hmm.
is fine. You're okay to be wrong. It is. But no, look, strong start. Probably on the weaker side of schedules with Chicago and Nashville, and winning 3-1 and then winning 3-2 against Nashville. Uh, Solid. Keeping 2 or under in goals conceded and scoring 3 or more. Obviously, just scoring 3.
Mm.
So solid. I just have them lower at the start. I'm still not fully sold on them, and they have a slightly easier run coming up with San Jose, LA, and Anaheim. So I'm probably gonna have to wait even longer for a good sample of what Boston is.
Yeah, I mean that doesn't bode well, does it? San Jose, Chicago, and Anaheim in their first 5 games. But yeah, look, I was just impressed with their defensive play yet again, their goaltending situation. I actually had them. I think in our predictions, I still had them finishing second in the Atlantic. I don't know what it is. I just have a feeling that they're going to still be relatively strong. And I think even though they have played probably a weaker side in Chicago and Nashville, um, who we're thinking are going to be about average around the mark, um, I like the fact that they got the jobs done. They did it pretty much how they did it all of last year with really solid defense, and Pasta putting pucks in the back of the net. So yeah, they're off to a good start. Pretty much picked up where they left off last year. Whether or not they continue on that trend is going to be the question. But yeah, I don't know. I don't mind Boston.
Alrighty, your pick at 5.
My pick at 5. I have the Carolina Hurricanes.
Alrighty, that's my number 3.
I thought they might. I reckon we're going to have the same number 1. I'd be very shocked if we didn't. But yeah, look, Carolina, same old. Really, they're 2-0. Weirdly enough, they conceded 5 goals against LA Kings today and didn't put up many shots, which is kind of unlike Carolina. It's usually they win a game 2-1, but had 50 shots.
Yeah.
So it's unusual for Carolina to score 5 goals on 19 shots and concede so many. So I don't know, a bit questionable. It's good in one way that they're scoring because that's what everyone's wanting Carolina to do, but also a little bit concerning on the defensive front. I think they've scored 10 goals in the 2 games they played. So
Yeah, they scored 5 and 6, so 11.
yeah.
Yeah.
One's a shootout goal, so I'm talking
Ah,
actual goals.
okay. If you want to
Um,
count that, okay.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
uh,
But yeah, conceding 8 though, that's my question mark. Is their defensive structure finally falling out, or are they trying to change it up a little bit and be a little bit more offensive?
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, no, I think LA should have had their number. I think it was just purely the goaltending that let them down, and that's why Carolina come with the win.
mm,
That's why they're not number two or number one. But I was very high on Carolina to begin with, and
yeah.
granted, I went to shootout, and I'm a little bit high on LA, and how they will finish the season as per our predictions. So I think pretty rough schedule to begin with Ottawa and
Mm,
LA, two teams I have rated pretty highly, and they come out with maximum points. So no matter what, I can't really fault it, even though one
mm.
has gone to shootout, and that's a game they probably shouldn't have won. It's just purely bad goaltending, really, from the LA side of things. That grants them that, and that's sometimes what you need to get those extra
Mm.
points and finish at the top of the table.
Yeah, 100%. All right, on to your number 4.
Number four, the Colorado Avalanche.
Yeah, yeah, I thought so. I thought we'd have the same number 1.
Yeah,
Yeah, look, no Landeskog, no worries for Colorado so far.
yeah. Like obviously, small sample sizes. They've versed San Jose and LA, so not bad. There were 2 goals and 1 goal conceded in the games. Obviously, the second game, San Jose went to shootout. They were destroying San Jose. It was just purely
Yeah,
Blackwood.
like,
That was the only thing that kept that. They probably should have been like 6-1, 8-1 type of game. And
mm,
I think that just shows the firepower of Colorado. It is scary that they're still missing the captain Landeskog, and that team could get better. And that's just really scary that they have that much firepower still.
yeah. Look, I think Landeskog's going to be a massive loss, so I don't know if they can keep this sort of pace up. But I feel like with the weakened Central, they're going to finish top 3 at worst. So yeah, if Landeskog can get himself right and get himself back for the playoffs, man, like he would amplify this team a long way. So yeah, look, good start for him so far. We obviously know how incredible they can be. They only won the Stanley Cup 2 seasons ago. So yeah, I still think they're going to have a pretty good season. And then once they get to playoffs, if Landeskog's back, who knows? Who knows what this team could do?
Mm. Uh,
All right,
Alrighty, final one. Reveal it, boy.
final one. Look, I don't think this is any shock to anybody. The Vegas Golden Knights, the reigning Stanley Cup champions, they've started the season off pretty much how they finished the season off
Mm.
last season. So yeah, 3-0, albeit against you know 2 of the weakest teams in the league in San Jose and
Yeah,
Anaheim,
literally bottom
but
two
they
in our
have won.
rankings.
Oh, 100%. And I
Even
don't even think it's really arguably the worst 2 teams in the league.
Yeah, and even
Um,
Seattle that they beat is 26 for both of us. So
yeah,
bottom
they've
end teams
started
all
off
three.
exactly. So, 4-1, 4-1, 4-1. So good scoring, great defense, good goaltending again. And I like the fact that they've used the tandem because, Aiden Hill and Thompson. So they didn't just play one goalie across all 3. They've mixed it up a little bit and gone Hill, Thompson, Hill. So yeah, look,
I guess you could do
they've
that when you know you're coming up against an Anaheim and San Jose.
oh,
To be
100%.
fair, to be fair, but
You're
yes,
not wrong, but I also feel like that's what they need if they're going to get through this season. I feel like they need Thompson and Hill to both have a lot of games under their belts because I feel like come playoffs, Hill might be the guy again, but also who knows? It's a big question mark. He showed up once. Does that mean he's going to show up again? So I feel like you need the games under both their belts because you might need to call on either one of them come playoff time. So yeah, I mean they've started off their Stanley Cup defense in fantastic fashion. So it's hard to have them anywhere else but number 1.
yeah, nah, I couldn't agree more. And very consistent, obviously, 4-1, 4-1, 4-1. That just means your team's very consistent throughout, and
Mhm.
that is why they won the cup, and probably why they will go very strong into the playoffs again this year. But I guess that
Yeah, hundred
wraps
percent.
up our rankings. So yeah, let us know what you think of our rankings below in the comments section. If you agree or disagree, obviously small sample sizes, you could do anything for this week. But yeah, let us know for next week onwards what you think. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more content. We'll be doing power rankings every week on our Sundays and doing other NHL content in between. But until next time, guys, we'll catch you later.
Take care, guys.